Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really cracking open a foundational document. It's the 1983 Human Resource Exploitation Training Manual.
Yeah, and this isn't just about, spycraft in the abstract. It's about the actual systematic process,
Yeah.
how they engineered extracting information.
From all sorts of people, right? POWs, defectors, even refugees and immigrants.
Exactly. And our mission really is to get into this central contradiction, this puzzle at its core.
Which is, how does this official manual aiming for, well, total information extraction, how does it explicitly ban force and torture, calls them ineffective, illegal?
Right. But then at the same time, it lays out these incredibly detailed techniques for essentially total psychological control. Subjugation, really.
And that distinction, ineffective versus illegal, that feels key, doesn't it? It's almost pragmatic, not about morals.
Purely operational pragmatism. And the training itself, you mentioned this, it's intense.
Yeah, I mean, 2 weeks of lectures, okay, but then 1 or 2 weeks of practical work.
With actual prisoners. This wasn't just like role-playing in a classroom.
Definitely not homework. Okay, so let's nail down some terms first. How does the manual define things?
Well, they're very clear. Information is just raw data. It's the unprocessed stuff, rumors, observations, reports.
Just noise, potentially.
Potentially. But intelligence, with a capital I, that's the finished product. It's the result of analysis, figuring out if that raw data is reliable, significant.
Got it. And then there's the act itself, interviewing, debriefing, and questioning.
Right. Interviewing and debriefing are more routine. But questioning, or cueing, as they call it, that's different.
Yeah, that's reserved for specific subjects.
Exactly. Subjects who are suspect-resistant or maybe both. And crucially, it happens under conditions of full control by the questioner.
Full control. That brings us right back to that prohibition, doesn't it?
It does. Right at the front, there's this mandatory disclaimer, prohibition against use of force.
And it states physical force, mental torture, threats, inhumane treatment, all prohibited. Law and domestic policy.
Yep. But the reasoning given inside the manual, well, it's revealing.
How so?
The main argument against force isn't just legal, it's that it's a poor technique.
Because it doesn't work reliably.
Precisely. Inflict pain, and the subject is likely to say whatever they think you want to hear just to make it stop.
So you get bad intel, distorted, unreliable data, which defeats the whole point.
It's an internal quality control measure, almost.
Yeah.
And, avoids legal trouble, too.
But then there's that coercive gap you mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. Despite this strong prohibition, you look at the admin notes, the history of the document. Entries for things like physical violence were actually deleted. But the table of contents, it still listed a section on coercive techniques.
So the line they drew seems very specific. No hitting.
Basically, no physical force, but psychological ploys, verbal trickery, other nonviolent ruses.
Those are okay. Encouraged, even.
That seems to be the implication. The whole focus shifts from physical power to, well, sophisticated mind games.
So if the mind is the battlefield, the environment becomes the weapon system.
Perfectly put. The manual is explicit. The questioning room itself is where the questioner has total control over the subject and his environment.
Okay, let's get into the design of that room. What makes it a tool?
It's all about sensory control and removing distractions. It has to be soundproofed, carpeted.
Bare walls.
Bare walls, yeah. Off-white is even suggested. Nothing for the eye or mind to latch onto. No external stimulus, no internal anchor points.
And constant surveillance, I assume.
Oh, absolutely key. Hidden microphones embedded in tables, walls, ceilings, all controlled covertly.
And a two-way mirror.
A two-way mirror, exactly. So someone can observe reactions, maybe even photograph them, without the subject knowing. The questioner needs to see everything, nonverbal cues, stress signs.
Okay, this part really jumped out at me. The tapes, they can be edited.
Yes. Edited and spliced. The manual actually suggests this for effectiveness.
Like faking a confession.
Well, maybe not faking from scratch. But imagine playing the subject a recording of an accomplice confessing. But you edited it.
To make it sound more damning or convincing.
Exactly. It's pure psychological stagecraft.
Yeah.
Using technology to enhance the pressure. More effective, they argue, than just telling the subject their friend confessed.
Wow, okay. And what about outside the questioning room? The actual detention cells?
Those are instruments, too, designed for systematic disorientation and making the subject feel helpless. Infantilization, almost.
Also, what are the details?
Small things, but they add up. Windows are set high, screened, they block out light.
So you lose track of time, day, night.
Precisely. Disrupts the body clock, adds to the stress. The ceilings are high too, 3 meters. Makes the space feel imposing, maybe?
Overwhelming.
And the bedding. You highlighted this.
Yeah, a cotton blanket. Specifically no mattress.
Why no mattress? Just discomfort.
Systematic physical stress.
Yeah,
You can't really rest, can't recover properly from the initial shock. Keeps you in this constant low-grade crisis state.
Maintaining vulnerability. Exactly. And even basic bodily functions are controlled. No built-in toilet.
So you have to ask for a bucket or an escort.
Yes. It reinforces total dependence. You rely on the guards, the system, the questioner's whole ecosystem for everything. It's calculated helplessness.
And this whole process, this engineered dependence, it starts right from the moment of arrest, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The timing and manner are planned. Planned for maximum amount of mental discomfort.
Like when?
Ideally, early hours of the morning, 3 or 4 a.m., when your mental and physical resistance is naturally at its lowest ebb.
Rudely awakened.
Yeah.
Then what?
Immediately blindfolded, handcuffed, stripped. Given ill-fitting clothes, another small detail to chip away at identity.
Loss of self.
And then held in total isolation until after that first questioning session.
The goal being?
The manual states it plainly. The subject must be convinced the questioner controls their ultimate destiny, that cooperation is literally essential for survival.
So they're psychologically tenderized before the real questioning even starts.
That's the idea, softened up considerably.
Okay, so the physical structure, the processing that creates the cage and breaks down the individual. But, as the manual points out, the questioner isn't alone in this.
Right. You need support. Once that environment of control is set up, you need the human factors, liaisons, interpreters.
Let's talk about liaisons first. These are other agencies, foreign services.
Yeah, partners, and they offer practical advantages. Legal authority to detain, the facilities themselves, guards, medical staff, maybe access to databases, personal history data.
Sounds useful, but there are downsides listed too.
Big ones. Reads like a major warning label, actually.
Like what?
Lack of training in these specific psychological questioning techniques among the liaison staff. That's a risk.
Okay.
Potential for corruption in the partner service or even hostile penetration spies within their ranks.
Right. Basic counterintelligence concerns.
But also crucially, the risk of becoming dependent on a partner service that does use physical torture or coercion.
So it could undermine the whole psychological, reliable data approach the manual pushes for?
Exactly. It's like they're saying, don't let our partners mess up the data integrity we're working so hard to get with our cleaner methods. It's that pragmatic focus again.
And interpreters. Often necessary, I guess, but the manual seems wary.
Very wary. Essential sometimes, yes, especially with defectors or people caught crossing borders, but never a satisfactory substitute for direct communication.
Why not?
Well, practical reasons first. It doubles the time needed for everything, makes rapid-fire questioning impossible.
And it hinders building that direct connection, rapport.
Absolutely. It puts a barrier between the questioner and the subject. But there's more culturally specific guidance, too.
Like what? This seemed oddly specific.
The social status rule. In societies where that's a big deal, the interpreter must have the right social stature to interact with officials or the subject.
Why would that matter in an interrogation?
Because the whole setup relies on establishing the questioner's absolute legitimate authority. If the interpreter, through their perceived lower status, somehow undermines that,
it might make the subject take the whole situation less seriously, less unavoidable.
That seems to be the thinking. They even note that using a female interpreter to question a man might not work in some cultures.
Why?
Because the manual claims the change in tonal inflection causes the effect to be lost during translation. It's about maintaining that precise psychological pressure.
So they're weaponizing the subject's own cultural biases against them.
It looks that way. Exploiting assumptions to solidify the questioner's dominance. The questioner is told to speak to the subject, maintain eye contact.
Using the interpreter like a tool, a voice box.
A dispassionate conduit.
Yeah.
All part of that calculated environmental and psychological control.
Which sets the stage for the questioner themselves. What makes a good one, according to this manual?
Well, proper training is paramount, obviously. But the number one quality they list, a genuine understanding of the source as a person.
Empathy. Or just understanding vulnerabilities.
Probably more the latter in this context. They also need objectivity, staying dispassionate no matter what. Self-control, so no angry outbursts or inappropriate sympathy.
And adaptability, alertness.
Yeah, alertness to detect deception, shifting attitudes.
Yeah.
Adaptability to change tactics on the fly.
And they use screening right away to figure out who they're dealing with.
Immediately. Get the psychological and biographical data, because the key is matching the questioning technique to the subject's personality.
And some subjects get higher priority.
Oh yeah, priority A, anyone with technical or scientific knowledge. Your physicists, engineers, weapons experts, they go to the top of the list.
Okay, this psychological screening section, this feels like the real playbook, exploiting human flaws.
It really is. A kind of learner's handbook to human vulnerabilities. Should we look at a few examples?
How about the orderly, obstinate subject? What's that profile?
Okay, think intellectual, tidy, very stubborn. Someone who likely sees themselves as superior, maybe particularly to their captors.
Right, prides themselves on resistance, structure.
Exactly. Their default mode is resistance. So the strategy is counterintuitive.
Yeah.
You avoid being hostile or aggressive.
No table pounding, no threats.
None of that. Because, the manual argues, hostility just triggers their old anxieties and gives them that familiar wall to push against. It validates their stubbornness.
So if you're friendly?
Friendliness disarms them. It denies them their preferred mode of conflict. It removes the justification for their obstinacy and forces them onto unfamiliar ground where they can't just fall back on defiance.
Clever. Okay, contrast that with the greedy, demanding subject.
Very different profile. This person is described as passive, dependent, might switch loyalties easily. Often there's a history of deprivation in childhood.
So they're looking for security, reassurance, a strong figure.
That's the assessment. They crave a replacement authority figure, so the technique. Adopt the tone of an understanding father or big brother.
Playing a role.
Completely. Use reassurances. Offer small, non-critical favors, an extra blanket, maybe a slightly better meal. Satisfy that deep-seated need for security.
And that makes them responsive, dependent on the questioner.
Highly responsive, yes.
Yeah.
You basically weaponize their unmet childhood needs to gain compliance.
Wow. Okay, what about someone sabotaged by their own mind? The subject wrecked by success.
This one's fascinating. This individual apparently has a conscience that just forbids pleasure or recognition. They literally cannot tolerate success.
How does that manifest?
They might fail right when they're about to achieve something important. It's like an internal psychological brake mechanism.
So in questioning, if they give up valuable information, that's a form of success.
Exactly. Or recognition. And their psyche reacts negatively, tries to punish them for it, creating internal conflict.
Which means
the information they give might become unreliable. Subjective distortions creep in because their own mind is rejecting the act of succeeding by cooperating.
So the questioner has to tread carefully.
Very carefully. Avoid anything that directly triggers feelings of guilt or reminds them of past failures. You have to extract the data around their inner turmoil. Deep situational awareness needed there.
Indeed. Okay, one more.
Yeah.
The schizoid subject.
Right. This profile describes someone living largely in fantasy, needing constant external approval. And critically, they're very likely to lie just to win favor.
Because they want that approval so badly.
It's their primary driver. So that desire for approval becomes the handle, the leverage point.
How do you use it?
You have to carefully tease out the truth by convincing them constantly that telling the truth will not lose them your favor.
Yeah.
That you'll still approve even if the truth isn't what they think you want to hear.
Yeah, and you absolutely cannot accuse them of lying.
No, that's fatal. The manual says that triggers immediate withdrawal back into their fantasy world. You need constant validation to keep them grounded and talking.
So, stepping back, what's the big picture here? What does this 1983 manual really tell us?
Well, it reveals this incredibly bureaucratic, highly systematic, psychologically engineered approach. It's not about brute force, it's about achieving total psychological dominance.
And it prioritizes operational effectiveness above all else.
Absolutely. It recognizes that psychological control yields more reliable intelligence and is, frankly, legally much safer than physical methods. It's pragmatic to its core.
The main takeaway for me is how they formalized exploiting universal human vulnerabilities.
Yeah, it's like they mapped human psychology, our need for approval, fear of failure, need for structure, and created techniques tailored to each flaw. Match the technique to the vulnerability, guarantee compliance. No fists needed.
Which brings us to a final, maybe unsettling thought for you, our listeners, to consider. The manual stresses that the subject's psychological profile is the key determinant for the best technique. If these agencies could so systematically categorize and exploit traits like obstinance or dependency or that need for approval inside a controlled facility, how easily could those same fundamental human vulnerabilities be manipulated in say, any high-stakes interaction out here in our everyday lives.
That is something to ponder, isn't it? Next time you're in a tough negotiation, maybe. Or even just getting complimented by a stranger. Thank you for diving deep with us today.
We'll see you next time.